Okay, the next item of business is a statement by Marie Todd on National Care Service. The Minister will take questions at the end of the statement. Therefore, there should be no interventions or interruptions. And I call on Marie Todd. Minister, up to 10 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Strong social care and community health support are the bedrock of a thriving and compassionate civil society. Most of us will need the social care system at some point in our lives for ourselves or for the people we love. I'm extremely grateful for the efforts made every day by hundreds of thousands of paid and unpaid carers, as well as our dedicated workforce to support those accessing social care. I want to talk today about why reform of social care is necessary, what the Government is already doing to drive improvement, why a National Care Service is essential to achieve the change that people want and need, and why I have asked for Stage 2 of the bill to be paused. There can't be one person in the Chamber today who does not already understand that the social care system in Scotland needs fundamental reform. The starting point for our work on the National Care Service was the independent review of adult social care. The social care system was acutely impacted by the COVID pandemic, and this review, led by Derek Feely, brought home the importance of having consistently high-quality care delivered with compassion and kindness. It reminded us that care isn't something needed only at the end of our lives. It reinforced the need to ensure those who deliver care are also looked after, and that no one is left behind or falls through the cracks of the system. The recommendations of the Feely Review were unequivocal about the need for change. This Government accepted the recommendations in full, and we remain committed to delivering on them. I have personally met with hundreds of people across Scotland who use social care and community health services and people with caring responsibilities. My officials have met with thousands more. I am grateful to all of those people for sharing their time and their views. While people have had a wide range of needs and access many kinds of support, they have told us very consistently and clearly things need to change. I want to restate for the Chamber 3 of the key issues that people have told us require urgent action. These are the reasons that change is so necessary. They are valuing social care, access to consistent high-quality services, and oversight of planning and delivery. The first issue is shifting society's attitudes to ensure that social care is fully valued. We must value the people who access care and the impact that our carers and workforce have on people's well-being and independence. We reopened the Independent Living Fund in April to enable up to 1,000 of the most disabled people in Scotland to access the support they need to lead independent lives. For carers, we brought forward the Carers Act to enhance and to extend the rights of all adult carers and young carers across the country. We're investing £88.4 million per year to support implementation. We published our National Carer Strategy in December 2022, and this sets out how we'll support and recognise our carers and includes our plan to strengthen access to short breaks for carers. Following our expansion of easy access voluntary sector short break support by £5 million in 22-23, we've maintained a budget of £8 million for 23-24 and 24-25. For people who work in the sector, we're making good progress on a way to introduce sectoral bargaining for the adult social care sector, in line with the recommendations of the Fair Work Convention. We're engaging constructively and meaningfully with the UK Government around the Employment Rights Bill, but we also need the UK Government to ensure that social care is not disadvantaged by the national insurance increase. This year, we invested £230 million for social care workers delivering direct care and commissioned services to have their pay increased to at least the £12 per hour real living wage rate. We are also committed in the programme for government to prioritise funding to local government to maintain the real living wage in 25-26. The second issue is access to consistent, high-quality support and services, targeted where and when they're most needed, and with clear information about what services are available. There is unacceptable variation across different local authority areas. For example, in some areas of Scotland, delayed discharge is 10 times worse than others, which is clearly unfair. We remain committed to a human rights-based approach to social care in Scotland. Self-directed support means care should be arranged and delivered subject to individuals' choice and control. And I'm grateful to the Health, Social Care and Sport Committee for the work they've recently undertaken on post-legislative scrutiny of SDS, and I'm actively considering where further improvements can be made. The third issue is oversight of planning and delivery. There are several aspects to this, and this is the area where we have the furthest to go to reassure people with lived experience that we have heard them and that we are acting on their concerns. We need greater transparency. We collectively spend £5.75 billion on social care services. We've increased investment in social care by £1 billion in the course of this Parliament. But we haven't seen the improvements we would expect, and there is little national oversight of where this money goes. Greater scrutiny of how services are planned, funded and provided is urgently needed. This Parliament has said so itself in its post-legislative scrutiny of the Self-Directed Support Act. There must also be meaningful inclusion of people with lived experience in the governance, planning and scrutiny of social care. This needs formal structures to enable participation. We also need to be able to take action to identify and share good practice, as well as challenge and resolve issues wherever they may arise. One specific example of work to drive this kind of improvement is the Collaborative Response and Assurance Group, the CRAG, co-chaired by the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care with COSLA. This provides targeted support to local systems to reduce the numbers of people in delayed discharge. Significant work is occurring to ensure discharge without delay policies, procedures and practice is patient-centred and enables people to recover in the right place at the right time. Now, people have told us that the government should be held accountable for the social care system in Scotland and called on ministers to lead that much-needed change. The work I've set out above is evidence that I'm already doing that. The National Care Service Bill is intended to support that improvement with structural reform that further empowers the role of people with lived experience in scrutiny. The bill and the package of draft amendments that I shared with the Health and Social Care and Sport Committee in June represent the government's view on how best to achieve that structural reform. We have encountered some opposition to these proposals, and I was particularly disappointed that after more than a year of negotiations, COSLA withdrew their support for the NCS bill. Disabled people organisations across Scotland have reported being ignored by COSLA despite their attempts to engage. I need to consider what approach will secure sufficient support to progress. Throughout the development of the bill, the Scottish Government has been committed to listening and to engaging. Operating as a minority government makes this even more important. For that reason, last week I wrote to the Health, Social Care and Sport Committee to say that I wanted to take time needed to fully reflect the range of views expressed in our approach to the bill, and that I wasn't seeking to start stage 2 of the NCS bill on the 26th of November. This was a necessary step to ensure that we get this right for people. There are many areas that we do agree on, and I appeal to everyone across the chamber to come together and to deliver the change that people tell us time and time again is needed. That is what the people we are here to serve need. Only yesterday, a collective group of disabled people's organisations, The Movement, published an open letter which read, We need a national care service and fundamental reforms to the broken systems. Disabled people of all ages need change, and the status quo is not an option because the disabled people are suffering. We need vital support to live a life of dignity and choices that non-disabled people take for granted. We owe it to them to now come together, to agree the way forward and to deliver for the people who need it most. The people who use social care and community health services and those with caring responsibilities. We all know the status quo is not an option. Change is needed and we must all work to secure improvement.
Thank you. The Minister will now take questions on the issues raised in her statement. I intend to allow around 20 minutes, after which we'll need to move to the next item of business. And I'd ask members who wish to ask a question, haven't already done so, to press the request to speak buttons. And I call first Sandish Golhani.
A declaration of interest as a practising NHS GP. 4 years in the making, wasted. 30 million wasted. Countless hours of stakeholder time wasted. And listening to the Minister's statement, it's clear she believes the Scottish Government are correct and absolutely everyone else is wrong. The Minister is trying to shift the blame to COSLA and all opposition parties. In fact, what the Minister has not said is that COSLA withdrew after painstaking negotiations because all of its key asks were ignored. The Minister has united Civic Scotland against the bill and united the Parliament against the bill. Minister, you are delaying the inevitable as the bill is dead in the water, and it is clear the greatest barrier to social care reform in Scotland is now the National Care Service Bill. I have 3 short questions. When did the Minister know that the current iteration of the bill couldn't go forward? Subsequently, when did the Minister inform the Cabinet? And Minister, do you accept responsibility for your own bill?
Through the Chair, please, Minister.
So much of what Sandish Golhani has said there is completely incorrect. Yep. It has to be said, we are a listening government. The reason that we changed the bill so extensively, much to the concern of many in this Parliament, was because we listened. And because COSLA, in particular, our local authority colleagues, asked us to change the bill. So we made an agreement over a year ago on that tripartite shared accountability between local authorities, NHS and ourselves. And we put in place over the course of the next year a system and a proposal that we thought would work. It is no wonder I was taken by surprise by their withdrawal of their support. They had asked us to pause negotiations over the course of the summer. They had capacity issues in terms of turning their attention to the delayed discharge problem and also focusing on negotiations for the bill. So we set the bill to one side, and without coming back to the negotiation table, they unilaterally withdrew support. Now, I am not seeking to blame COSLA. What I am trying to say today is that there is a very strong case for change. Derek Feely himself, in the foreword to his review, said, in the improvement world, there is a maxim which reads something like, every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. That is the basic challenge for us. We've inherited a system that gives us unwarranted local variation, crisis intervention, a focus on inputs and a reliance on the market and an undervalued workforce. If we want a different set of results, we need a different system.
Very briefly, Minister.
So I heard from COSLA at the end of September. Cabinet were informed immediately, and I have been working hard ever since to resolve the situation.
I'm going to need slightly briefer responses. I'm also going to need front benches not to be hectoring the Minister as she's trying to respond. Jackie Bailey.
I agree with the Minister that the status quo isn't an option, but the SNP have had 17 years to fix social care. In fact, they've had over 3 years to get this bill right and have simply failed. Scottish Labour first called for a national care service 13 years ago, but what has been brought forward by this government simply doesn't come close. Contrary to the Minister's assertions, this proposed bill does not deliver on the Feely recommendations, and they simply haven't listened. They've wasted £30 million and let down disabled people in the process. And people's care packages are being cut right now. Delayed discharge is at a record high right now, and staff are leaving in their droves. So, Minister, can I ask you, how long will this now take? Because the Scottish Government can use alternative legislation to do a lot of the things we agree on much quicker than this bill. Anne's Law can be done through secondary legislation. So too can carers' respite, procurement, ethical commissioning, fair pay, collective bargaining, and the National Social Work Agency doesn't need legislation at all. So will the Minister stop the dither and delay, tell the Chamber what she will do to improve social care right now?
Minister.
So the member, Jackie Baillie, each time she speaks about the National Care Service, reiterates her personal commitment to a National Care Service. And we are well aware, we are well aware that in England they are introducing a National Care Service, and in Wales Labour are introducing a National Care Service. But here in Scotland, Scottish Labour are opposing the introduction of a National Care Service, much to the dismay of disabled people's organisations. Let me quote Tressa Burke from the Glasgow Disability Alliance, who says, "Our voices, priorities and our needs have been drowned in this political backbiting, where the people who are meant to be at the very heart of this have been forgotten. We would much rather have made the amendments and made sure that the changes were being made as we go." That is what the disabled people's organisations are saying to me. That is what they are saying in public. I intend to return in the new year with a proposal for this bill to the Health and Social Care Sport Committee. Jackie Baillie is continuing to heckle me from a sedentary position. So Jackie Baillie has a small window of opportunity with which to come forward with her and to show disabled people her commitment to a National Care Service in Scotland.
Thank you. Again, we're going to need briefer responses as well as shorter answers. Rona Mackay to be followed by Brian Whittle.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Ultimately, at the heart of this discussion are social care users across the country who require our support and reassurance in light of the delay of this bill. Can the Minister outline how the Scottish Government will work to engage with care users directly on the next steps of this process and how they will be supported presently?
Minister.
So, as I said, I've personally met with hundreds of people across Scotland who use social care and community health services and people with caring responsibilities. My officials have met with thousands more, and I would absolutely like to reassure them all that in partnership with them, we are committed to reforming the social care system in Scotland. We are building and co-designing the detail through our continued engagement with people with experience of using these services. We are also regularly meeting with partners and stakeholders who are the experts in delivering social care services and community health to develop the final scope of a national care service that delivers for everyone.
Brian Whittle to be followed by Kevin Stewart.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Traditionally, when one is in a hole, one stops digging. When the Scottish Government are in a hole, it announces a review, continues to dig, looking in vain for a face-saving exit. This is rapidly becoming the legislative equivalent of the Monty Python's Dead Parrot sketch. As far as everyone but the Scottish Government are concerned, this is an ex-bill. So will the Minister please now accept that these proposals are not the answer the sector can work with, and will she please engage with colleagues from across this chamber to deliver a much-needed solution that the sector urgently needs?
Minister.
So let me reiterate again, I am engaging right across the board with all stakeholders. The voices that are not being heard in this debate are the voices of the Disabled People's Organisation, who are very clear that a national care service is what they want to see. Derek Feely already gave us a very clear review with clear recommendations on what we need to deliver in Scotland. I am more than happy to meet with members from across this chamber with their ideas on how we can proceed to deliver on that review.
Kevin Stewart, to be followed by Carol Moch.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And I'm very disappointed that there has been a delay, like so many of the folks in disabled people's organisations and the voices of lived experience throughout the country. There are certain things which I think we must progress with, though, here, and I want some reassurance from the Minister. I put Anne's Law into guidance. That needs to go into legislation to fulfil promises that were made to Campbell Duke, Anne Duke's husband, her family and the care home Relative Scotland. Can the Minister assure me that Anne's Law will go into legislation, and if she could explain how that is to be done, I'd be very grateful.
Minister.
So I'm absolutely committed to Anne's Law, and I and the First Minister met recently with the Care Home Relative Scotland and with Campbell Duke, the widower of Anne, to reassure them of that commitment. It's really important that we get the legislation right and that we make Anne's Law a reality, and I'm very grateful for the ongoing input and support from relatives, care home providers and other organisations. The National Care Service Bill was chosen as the vehicle for Anne's Law because it fits with the bill's focus on embedding human rights within our social care services, along with more options and flexibility being provided by primary legislation. I'd be more than happy. I can't give the member a timetable. I can give the member absolute assurance and commitment that we will deliver on Anne's Law, and I'd be more than happy to continue meeting with him to give him reassurance on that front.
Thank you. Carol Moch, to be followed by Emma Harper.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. In this statement, the Minister acknowledges, and I quote, "We all know the status quo is not an option." It feels like the Government is the only people who don't understand this. For unpaid carers, this is quite simply an understatement. The labour of unpaid carers in Scotland saves the economy £15.9 billion each year. There are now no meaningful plans in place to guarantee breaks for unpaid carer. What is the Government doing to rectify this now?
Minister. So I recognise the incredible contribution that Scotland's unpaid carers make to our communities, as well as the pressures that many carers are under. We're investing £88.4 million a year in local carer support through Local Authority Carers Act funding. We're providing £8 million a year for voluntary sector short breaks, increased by £5 million in 2023, including £3.5 million via local carer centres. And we're providing £600,000 in 24-25 for local carer centres to expand their invaluable support to carers, including young carers. The member is absolutely correct. There are a number of elements of this bill that all of us agree on. Anne's Law, support for unpaid carers, the National Social Work Agency, information sharing, complex care commissioning. What I am asking for is for members in this chamber to put the politics aside and sit down and work out how we deliver these things that we agree on.
Thank you. Emma Harper, to be followed by Gillian Mackay.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As a member of the Health Committee and a registered nurse, I've been really interested in following the progress of the NCS bill in terms of ensuring best possible outcomes for patients. One of the key parts of the bill is to standardise education and training for carers. Can the Minister comment on how this work can still be taken forward while the NCS is being considered?
Minister.
The development and training of social care staff is absolutely critical. It's primarily the responsibility of their employers, but I'm keen to support where we can. And as part of the Joint Social Services Workforce Task Force, we've been looking at improving the experience of the workforce. For example, work led by the SSSC and by NES is updating the National Induction Framework and developing a portable induction passport that allows induction learning to be transferred between employers. They're also developing a digital tool that should improve the understanding and visibility of career opportunities within the adult social care sector. And I would finish by saying we must together work to deliver more of this for our workforce.
Gillian Mackay, to be followed by David Torrance.
I believe that there are still things that we should pass in this bill. The right to short breaks for carers and the right to advocacy and information, amongst others, need to be progressed. However, as a party, we still have fundamental issues with some of the provisions. One of the issues we often discuss here and in committee is variation across local authorities and the pattern of integration. Given that no two local authorities are alike, during this pause, will the Minister meet with cross-party councillors from individual local authorities to hear their concerns and try and find a way forward?
Minister.
Thanks. I'd be more than happy to meet with cross-party local councillors. I know that particularly in the COSLA leaders' decision, the Green Party were excluded by not having a Green leader. I understand. We meet weekly on Crag with local systems to try to tackle the variation across the country in delayed discharges. It is absolutely astonishing that there are people in this chamber who are defending the incredible postcode lottery of care that our citizens are facing. In Ayrshire, the same NHS area, 3 different local authority areas, we have a very low rate of delayed discharge in East Ayrshire, more than double that in North Ayrshire, more than triple that in South Ayrshire. It's just completely indefensible and we need to find a way forward.
David Torrance, to be followed by Willie Rennie.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can the Minister outline how the Scottish Government will look to support the social care sector in light of the new concerns highlighted by stakeholders that UK Labour Government's plan to increase employers' national insurance contributions could be catastrophic for many of the volunteer sector care providers?
Directly related to the issues that were raised in the statement, Minister, if you can respond.
So, in actual fact, the member is absolutely correct that the new national insurance contribution expected to be paid by all employers in the UK, a change which was brought in without any understanding of how the care sector currently works, without any consultation with stakeholders and without modelling the impact of change, is likely, we think, to cost the social care sector in Scotland over £84 million. That is absolutely catastrophic. Donald McCaskill, CEO of Scottish Care, has called it the straw that breaks the camel's back. We absolutely need that issue to be sorted. It's clearly, in fact, more pressing than any of this discussion about medium and long-term improvement of our social care system. That is an immediate threat to our social care system in Scotland.
Willie Rennie, to be followed by Annie Wells.
Does the Minister not feel the slightest, even the slightest embarrassment that she has spent £30 million and got absolutely nowhere? Meanwhile, in Fife, £13 million has been cut by the Social Care Partnership. Is there any limit to how much money she's going to spend and how much time she's going to commit on this failed project?
Minister.
So I think it's absolutely essential. I mean, if we look at, for example, the decision that was made on the national insurance contribution, that was made without any understanding of how that would impact on our social care system in Scotland. And it is likely, very likely, to tip it into absolute crisis. I will make no apology for taking time to understand the complex system of social care that operates in Scotland, to understand and to hear from stakeholders, including those delivering social care, including those working in social care, and most importantly, including those accessing social care, and modelling the impact of change. This is a system on which lives depend, and it is really important that we proceed carefully with improving it.
Annie Wells, to be followed by Claire Hawkey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm sure that the Minister can see, just like me, that the entire process of this bill has been nothing short of shambolic. The NCS bill has let down everyone, including social workers and those that desperately needed Anne's Law. And the Minister speaks very highly of Derek Feely, as do I. So can I ask the Minister how many recommendations from the Feely Review, which was first published in February 2021, have been implemented to date?
Minister.
So I'm more than happy to come back to the member with the detail of that. But let me say, the Conservative, I mean, this is rank hypocrisy from the Conservatives. The Conservatives have absolutely opposed this change from the moment it was conceived of. They are the party that most strongly says stick with the status quo and don't change anything. So it is absolute rank hypocrisy to claim now to be supporting the Feely report, which we are not implementing in full in these proposals, because we listened to the concerns raised by our local authority colleagues and changed direction.
Claire Hawkey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I refer members to my register of interests. I hold a bank nurse contract with Greater Glasgow and Clyde NHS. Stakeholder organisations and individuals have spent a significant amount of time and energy contributing to the development of the proposed National Care Service, and they voiced their concerns regarding the pause in Stage 2 proceedings of the bill. What reassurance can the Minister offer them that their contributions will not be diminished or disregarded going forward?
Minister.
So, as I mentioned, I have personally met with hundreds of people across Scotland who use social care and community health services and people with caring responsibilities. I am so grateful to all of these people for sharing their time and their views, which have been extremely valuable. I cannot unhear what they have told me. The status quo is not an option, and they have told us very consistently and clearly that things need to change. The engagement and co-design work that we have done in recent years continues to be the most important evidence base for change, and we will continue to work together to make the improvement that is so desperately needed.
Thank you. And very briefly, Stephen Kerr.
The Minister lost every major stakeholder. 4 committees of this Parliament advised her that this bill was flawed. She spent £30 million, and then she says, but I'm not going to make any apologies for any of this. Well, she ought to. Does she, let me go back to Sandesh Gulhani's question, does she take any ministerial responsibility for this mess? And can she give the Chamber one reason why she shouldn't resign or be sacked?
Minister.
So, I think, to be fair, this is exactly what I would expect from Stephen Kerr. It is, you know, the Conservatives at every turn have opposed this change. By their very nature, they like things to stay the same. That is the essence of conservatism. And there is fundamentally a need for profound and radical change in our social care system. I guarantee you, I have heard loudly and clearly what our citizens are telling us. In the groups of people that Mr Kerr reeled off opposing this bill, notably absent were the people accessing social care, the disabled people's organisations, those people who desperately need us to work and to deliver, and I absolutely remain committed to doing that for them.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes this item of business. There will be a brief pause before we move on to the next item of business to allow front benches to change.